Hello and welcome to another edition of Issues with Jide. Here we talk about actions and inactions of those who shape our political and national landscape and how these impact us positively or otherwise. I'm Ibrahim Shita. Today on the show, panic grips VIPs as IG begins withdrawal of officers from them. PDP crisis, Wike suffers setback as INEC rejects its factional chairman. And then the third topic will be on the notorious bandits of northern Nigeria. We'll be looking at how they make billions of Naira. In the course of the program, we take your questions. The first, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Drop your questions in the comment section. It's important to mention that we can only read comments with human names and ones based on the subject matter. I have joining me via the master himself, Babajide Kolade Toju. Good to see you, Mikhail.
Good to see you, Brian. Good to do this with you.
Let's start off with the directive by the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, which is now being implemented by Kayode Egbetokun, recalling 11,566 officers previously assigned to VIP protection, pulling them off security duty for politicians and prominent figures, and then redeploying them to frontline policing across the country. What has been your impression about this, Mikhail?
Well, I'm happy that the president gave that directive. The president said the politicians and other VIPs and VVIPs should now be guided by men of the civil defense. Whether the civil defense guys are ready for this challenge, whether they are ready to step into the shoes of the police, whether they have the numbers to provide security for the big men and women in our country, is a question whose answer is blowing in the wind. I am not convinced that they are ready. I'm not convinced that they have enough numbers to be able to focus on their core mandate, which is provide security for pipelines and all that, while also relieving the police of the duty of guiding VIPs and VVIPs. This came as a surprise. It came as a shock. You know, the president's directive. So I don't know how ready the civil defense guys are. But this is something that had been bothering Nigerians for so long. We have more than 150,000 people, policemen guiding VIPs and VVIPs, whereas our communities, especially the rural and semi-urban centers, remain largely under-policed. So, especially the front lines. Now, what the IG has said is that this is not meant to punish anyone, that is just a strategic alignment to strengthen frontline policing and protection of vulnerable communities. Most of the banditry takes place in the rural areas. They hardly carry out banditry in urban centers because they know they don't stand a chance of escaping. But they target those communities that have little or no policing, to commit crime. So far, 11,566 of such personnel have been withdrawn, and they will now be posted to critical areas where policing duties are needed desperately. That's talking about boosting rural and township security on a large scale. The Nigerian population in the rural areas will get more protection, and more policemen will be available to be deployed to intensify patrols, both motorized patrol as well as even static checkpoints on the highways. The police IG believes that visibility is very important in policing. Where people can see that there is a presence of policemen, they will think twice about committing crime because they know that they are most likely going to be apprehended. So the police believe that with the personnel guiding politicians, their wives, and other people being released as a result of the presidential directive, they will have more men to do the job of policing Nigerians rather than simply protecting individuals, typically the high-profile clients, executives, and even celebrities. I was talking about one Nigerian Afrobeat star that I saw in one hotel in Lagos. The sheer number of policemen guiding him, I just couldn't believe it, that one person will have up to that number of policemen guiding him. So how are we going to find enough policemen to protect people resident in our rural communities? It's going to be difficult. But I believe that with the president's promise to intensify recruitment of policemen, if they can do that on a sustainable scale, then gradually we will rapidly improve the number of policemen that we have as a country. All over the world, VIPs, especially famous musicians and all that, need protection. But what happens is that in many countries of the world, private security officers, that is what they are called, they are usually hired. These are trained professionals who are trained to protect individuals, especially the typically popular, high-profile executives, musicians, Nollywood stars, and all that. So they are trained. In many cases, they carry arms. They have training in weapons handling. It is not police. I see a lot of the American musicians, very famous, internationally acclaimed American musicians. It's their private bodyguards that they use. But in our own case, it's policemen that will be following them up and down. It's Mopol that will be following them up and down. It is not the business of the Mopol to be guiding individuals, musicians, and all that. We are saying that if we are intentional about it, private security guards will get good training in weapons handling, in martial arts. That is where they are not required to shoot or use or carry arms. They will get good training in terms of martial arts so that they can protect their principal when necessary. In India, the government withdrew the National Security Guard, also known as Black Cat Commandos, from VIP protection. It's the same situation that we find ourselves in our country. In India, they then felt that, look, the job of these Black Cat Commandos is to prevent terrorism from happening. They are counter-terrorism officers. But a lot of them were guiding high-profile people, VIPs and VVIPs. But government had to withdraw them so that they can focus on their primary mandate of fighting terrorism. So now these VVIPs in India, they have adjusted. I believe that if we begin to use these private security guards. Even that subsector of our security sector will improve tremendously, and people will be able to hire them instead of using policemen for such roles. Even during the Gulf War, military contractors who are not really what's it called? Who are not really soldiers. These are private individuals, but they call them military contractors. In Nigeria, we call them mercenaries. They are not called mercenaries in other parts of the world. These are military contractors. And they provide even protection for troops in some cases, and big personalities. In the green area of Iraq, these private military contractors were very active, and they were used in Nigeria just before the 2015 election. Jonathan brought them to come and confront Boko Haram here in Nigeria. They had the right weapons, that helps in intelligence gathering and all that. So I believe that we too, if you see some of those private guards in America, they look smart, they carry guns, and they provide protection. But here, a Burna Boy will take policeman to a nightclub. It is police that we are using. So how are we going to have enough policemen to man our villages, to man our cities, when almost half of the entire police population is guiding civilians? So I just hope that the president can put his foot down and ensure that this is implemented. As you can see, they are already in panic mode. Look at what the former governor of Sokoto State, Wamako, said. He said that they will be targeted by criminals and other. I agree that if they don't have protection, they will fall prey to criminals and other evil people. But that shouldn't stop us from doing what is right. We have to start from somewhere. Let's free some of these policemen so that they can live up to the mandate that they were given, which is to provide, security for our communities and for our people, not to be guiding VIPs and VVIPs all over the place. One VIP can even have up to 10 policemen. What is the meaning of that? The oil executives in the Niger Delta, the expatriate oil workers, in some cases you see up to 30 security people following them. So even our soldiers, we have to reduce the way they are made to guide private individuals. We have to reduce it so that we can have enough soldiers to prosecute the war on terror. We have to do something about it. Hopefully this is the beginning of that conversation, and we will get used to using private security officers.
All right, Uche Daniels says, if ordinary Nigerians have been surviving without police escorts for decades, I honestly don't see why politicians should suddenly develop hypertension because their guards are going back to real policing. Welcome to our world. Fatima Lawal Mohammed, I support redeployment, but implementation matters. Some VIPs genuinely face credible security threats because of the nature of their jobs. The police must prioritize, not just withdraw blindly. Ezekiel Wunkeye says, let's be real. The panic isn't because they love security officers, it's because they've created enemies everywhere. If police were fair and transparent, who would they be afraid of? If policies, rather, were fair and transparent, who would they be afraid of? Gloria Kim Adams says, this is a bold reform, but only meaningful if the officers actually reach rural and crime-prone zones. If they end up cheating in stations, then this whole drama is just political theater. And then we have good evening, the maestro himself and Ibrahim. Okay. We have Michael Ajayi says, if politicians are really doing well in their various constituency, can they be going around with armed forces men? Let the armed forces men should be redeployed to schools and communities. Nelson Adufe says, while appreciating these presidential initiatives, there is vacuum in policing, a vacuum to policing and military manpower and equipment facilities. There should also be more than 500,000 in each of the defense departments. Okay, let's change tack because of our time. Looking at the crisis, the internal crisis within the People's Democratic Party, which has deepened when INEC rejected the Wike-backed acting national chairman submitted by the faction. The rejection was actually based on non-compliance with statutory requirements under the Electoral Act. How do you help us understand the twist or the turn of things within the PDP?
Yeah, actually, the secretary of the party, Samuel Anyanwu, and Abdurrahman, the chairman of the Wike faction of the party, wrote a letter to INEC notifying it of desire to postpone the primaries of the party in Ekiti State, citing logistical issues. So they are written to INEC seeking to postpone the Ekiti governorship primaries due to logistical issues. INEC then fired back through one of his staff, who goes by the name Rose O. Anthony. And INEC said, your letter on the above subject refers. The commission draws your attention that the notice is not in compliance with the requirement of Part 2, 12.3 of the Regulations and Guidelines for Political Parties, 2022, which provides that the national chairman and national secretary of the party shall jointly sign the notice of convention, congress, conference, or meetings and submit same to the commission be guided. The commission hereby informs you that it has rejected your submission for non-compliance with the requirements of the Electoral Act. What this means is that, as far as INEC is concerned, the chairman of the PDP that it recognizes is not Abdurrahman, but the immediate past chairman. So, as far as INEC is concerned, it should have been Anyanwu and Damagum that will sign that letter. And without the signatures of both men, whatever communication, whatever notice that they are firing at INEC will not be recognized. So effectively, a message has been sent to the PDP, the faction of Wike, that Abdurrahman is not recognized as chairman of the party. INEC didn't mention whom it recognizes. But one thing I know is that until a court of law validates either of Abdurrahman or any other person for that matter, INEC will simply stick to the status quo ante. And what's the status quo ante? It is Damagum and Samuel Anyanwu. That is my reading of what INEC is doing. And don't forget, the crisis The convention of the PDP held in Ibadan was also not without controversy. Some of the governors said, well, the decision that was taken, they did not support it. And we've also seen the Wike faction going to court now, seeking another of the court, stopping the INEC from recognizing those who emerged from the Ibadan convention of the party. Again, Sule Lamido, who went to court seeking to stop the convention from taking place because he was not allowed to contest for the position of chairman. They have made efforts, they've reached out to him trying to make peace, but Sule Lamido is insisting that the decisions reached at the Ibadan convention of the party should be seen as null and void. So he does not recognize the decisions reached because he believes that it's an injustice done to him. So the way it is now, from my reading of this thing, it will be difficult, and anyone who wants to contest the election in Ekiti and Osun on the platform of PDP has to think twice, because the question would then be, who is the chairman that will be recognized by INEC ahead of that election? Because you can't get Damagum and Anyanwu to sit down together and sign a document at this stage. And that could have been the problem solver. But they are now in opposite directions. Chairman and secretary, they are in opposite directions. So how do you get them to sign documents, expression of interest form and all that, nomination forms and all that for party members? So it's difficult to get both men to come together since they've decided to part ways. Secondly, the officials who emerged from the convention held in Ibadan, if they were to sign documents of the party, if they were to sign nomination forms and all that, they are going to be sued. Because remember, that case was in court, but the party decided to go ahead and conduct the convention, despite the fact that Justice Omotosho ordered them to not do the convention, despite the fact that Justice Lifu ordered them not to go ahead with the convention. So, head or tail is a precarious situation for the party. And members will be wondering now who will sign their form. Especially those who want to contest in Ekiti and Osun. And those elections are getting closer and closer. So who will sign? That is the thing. Whoever signs, the other side will challenge the legality of such a person signing. Those who can sign and probably get away with it now are Anya with the secretary and Damagum, the chairman, because as far as INEC is concerned, those are the people that they know. But
That's right.
How do you get people who are now in opposite directions to come together and agree to sign a document? So it's going to be tough, and as I see it, the crisis in the PDP will continue to get worse. This is what I see.
Right. Anthony Chubuike says Wike is a political powerhouse, but even power can't replace process. If the law says internal party elections must follow due process, must follow due procedure, then the law must stand. Bukola Oyemi says the PDP keeps throwing premium free drama. If this family meeting doesn't end soon, 2027 may become a walkover for other parties. Hassan Bature Salisu says, INEC is right to insist on compliance, but timing and neutrality are crucial. Anything that looks like selective interpretation of the law is dangerous for democracy. Maureen Oliver says the crisis is no longer ideological, it's personal. Until PDP stops running like a fraternity of egos, not a political organization, reforms will remain impossible. And we have Nelson, we have Ehide therapist, Ehide the priest says, this country will go through this dark time and come out of it with the time and put the enemy of this country to big shame. Nelson Adife says PDP is just being petty and abusing the adage Agbakinshi Urubiewe. They can't continue this way and still oppose one party state, though it's a room for SDP, ABGA, and so on to zoom forward. All right, Mikhail, because of our time, I would have asked more questions, but then we need to carry on. Looking at, across northern Nigeria, armed bandit gangs are increasingly sophisticated, kidnapping people, raiding communities, and allegedly engaging in ransom negotiations and ransom-backed trafficking, generating massive illicit profits in Naira and foreign currency. Could you help us understand what mechanism they use to launder or convert illicit earnings into maybe quote unquote legitimate wealth?
Well, what we find ourselves, we now have to confront, especially in northern Nigeria, not in all parts of northern Nigeria, but in many parts of northern Nigeria these days, is what is called the illicit economy. Armed groups are occupying forests that had been left unattended to for so long. All these people do is they attack villages, murder people, set, in some cases, entire villages ablaze, especially when they are confronted by vigilantes. And then it is largely rural banditry that is taking place in our country. A lot of people get kidnapped. They are kidnapped on highways in those rural communities. Now, I have to say that Zamfara State is the epicenter of banditry in our country. And in Zamfara State has produced some of the most prominent bandits who have spread their tentacles to all parts of Nigeria, especially northern Nigeria. So bandits like Buarindaji, who was their leader, but was murdered by Dogo Gide after he rustled cattle belonging to Dogo Gide's in-laws, and Dogo Gide told him to release the cattle that he rustled, but he refused. Dogo Gide then brought his fighters to come and corner him in Dansadao Forest in Zamfara State, and shot him and left his remains in the bush. It was already thoroughly decomposed before the military went to retrieve the remains. Other people like Halilu Sububu, who was eliminated recently, Bello Tuji, these are Ado Hailero, these are prominent millionaire bandits. These are the real bandit leaders. They are very rich. Their foot soldiers are very poor. That's why when you see their pictures, even when they are arrested, you'll be wondering that maybe they sometimes collect as much as 100 million from an individual, the family of an individual that they kidnap. How come they are looking so tattered, looking so haggard? it is the big boys, the Ado Haleros, the Halelo Sububus, the Bello Trujis. These are the ones, the Dogo Gides, the Jambros. These are the people who make all the money. And it is a multi-billion naira business. They first started with cattle rustling, then moved to semi-community attacks. They were attacking villages. And after that, they began to establish bandit camps and recruit a lot of foot soldiers. And they were buying weapons. With time, they became so strong to the point that they didn't think that it was risky to confront soldiers, to confront policemen. Now, someone like Bello Truji is stinkingly rich from proceeds of banditry. Bello Truji has investments in several states of northern Nigeria, like Sokoto, like Kano. Even here in Lagos, he has investments. He has many articulated vehicles, trailers that bring cattle to the south, and those trailers bring animal feed to the north. So his boys, those who run the business for him, they know that, run his business, but they know that if they are found wanting, he's going to waste them. And these guys have thousands of cattle. In fact, I would not doubt it if I was told that the big bandit leaders in Nigeria have cumulatively up to 1 million heads of cattle. And their main, like their, what I can call their fortress, is a place called Bayanrua. Bayanrua in Zamfara State is located at the back of the Great Bakolori Dam. The terrain is treacherous, but it guarantees them access to good pasture because of the availability of water and all that. So they've remained there for so long. What has worsened banditry is the fact that they are able to recruit a lot of residents of those communities where they are based. And of course, their deep involvement in illegal mining. Someone like Halilu Sububu was mining gold in Anka, Ukuyum. Both local governments are in Zamfara State. Zamfara is very rich in gold, and you don't need to dig several meters into the soil before you encounter gold in Zamfara. And these boys do a lot of gold mining, illegal gold mining, and it's also helping them to find the money to buy weapons. Another factor fueling banditry is the activities of conflict entrepreneurs, those who sell petrol to them, because in their forest they need petrol. Some people take petrol to them with which they fuel their motorbikes, because they rely so much on motorbikes because of the uneven terrain and all that in those forests. And their favorite motorbike is the Honda brand. When I went to do some interviews, when I went to interview some bandits in January this year in Kaduna State, I saw that they preferred that Honda brand. I don't know, maybe it's stronger than other brands of motorcycles, but that was what they preferred. So these conflict entrepreneurs help them to get bread, to get Maggie. They like Maggie a lot, so which their wives can cook meals for them. Their women can cook meals for them. Then petrol, as I said earlier, bread. They need bread in ample quantity. So then of course some of Nigeria's security agents also provide them with even ammunition. They buy bullets sometimes illegally from even some policemen. And of course, these conflict entrepreneurs also sell Indian hemp to them. So these drugs are fed to their poor foot soldiers so that they can be crazy enough to take a life when necessary. They'll be ready to kill at any point in time. So the real people who are making money from banditry are those leaders. The bandit leaders I talked about earlier. Dogo Gide is stinkingly rich. He organized the kidnapping of those students of federal government college, Yauri. And he made a lot of money from that kidnapping. He also organized the kidnapping of the students of government science secondary school, Kagara, in Rafi local government area of Niger State. That's the school that Senator Shehu Sani attended. They also made a lot of money. They target school children because they know that once they kidnap school children, government will directly get involved. And it is from government that they believe they can make all the money. Because when Nigerians begin to shout and say, they must bring these people back safe and all that, they know that government will eventually talk to them, do a deal with them, and probably pay ransom. So they also work with Boko Haram elements, some of whom are in places like Shiroro in Niger State. There are some elements, remnants of Boko Haram, who fled to that area, and they are carrying out their activities because the Boko Haram insurgency now incorporates some elements of banditry. It was Boko Haram that organized the kidnapping of train passengers. Many people thought that they were based only in the Northeast. I remember posting on Twitter back then that these guys had settled in the north central of our country. Some people were abusing me at that time. Now, after they kidnapped those train passengers and they owned up to the kidnap, the world can see now that they moved from the northeast to, some of them have moved from the northeast to the north central, where they are continuing their illegal mining, where they are continuing their kidnapping of people, and sometimes even confronting the military in places like Alawa in Niger State. They've faced up to the military some occasions and even burned some military camps. So it's those boys, the Ado Aleros, the Bello Tujis, the Dogo Gides, they are the ones who are making money investing in property in Kano. I've heard stories that some people will come to Kano to buy houses. They want to pay as much as 100 million and they are paying in cash. This is money from banditry. This is money from kidnapping people and nothing else. They are not going to use the banks because they want to make sure that they carry out the activities without leaving any trail.
That's right.
So they are investing in those areas. They are buying houses in Kano, buying houses in Sokoto, investing in trailers, investing in cattle business, So from the money that they are making, their investments are spread across many parts of northern Nigeria and even Lagos.
Mm.
So that is why it's
Oh,
extremely difficult to even stop it. Any business that Nigerians are doing with a very huge profit margin, you are going to have to kill Nigerians to get them to get off that business. That is
mm,
where we found ourselves now.
mm.
And they have recruited a lot of hungry residents of communities who provide information, who give the information about troops movement, about movement of vehicles and all that, who spy, who snitch on other people. Even men and women. Women are being used. They have women that they pay to give them information. They have women that they pay to bring petrol in even travel bags. They pour petrol in plastic bags and put in travel bags and take straight to these people in the forest. So they are exploiting the hunger that is ravaging our people in the communities where they hold sway and getting those people to spy for them. So they've
Yeah.
recruited fighters from the population, they've recruited spies from the population. That is why
Mm.
banditry is such a big problem in our country and has become so difficult to deal with. That's
All right.
because of these dimensions to it.
All right. Sadiq Kolo Danjuma says, you cannot defeat banditry by firepower alone. Development is security, roads, schools, jobs. Excuse me. That's the real antidote. Now, Blessing of All says, when criminal can make billions and still negotiate openly with government intermediaries, you're not battling bandits, you're battling a criminal economy with political friends. Awal Mokhtar says, people say bandits, people say bandits as if they are just criminals in the bush. Some of them have accountants, logistics chains, and financiers. Until the money trail is cracked, nothing will change. I totally agree with BKO. Helen Osoyade says, Nigeria has managed to turn a tiny criminal problem into a billionaire industry by ignoring the early warnings. Now we are paying the price in blood and ransom. Emeka Otsubo says, arresting bandits without reforming the justice system is like fetching water with a basket. Today, they are in detention. Tomorrow, someone grants them bail on health grounds. And BKO, this person is asking question. It says, Michael Ajayi says, sir, some politicians and government officials said they know all these bandits or they knew all these bandits. Why can they not go after them? Why can they go after them than going to negotiate with them? Okay, saying that why don't they go after them rather than negotiating with them? This shows the failure of our governments. It looks more like a statement, but
So
can you
that
just quickly speak to that?
the governor of Zamfara says he knows them. We know them too. I know them. I've been to at least two camps of bandits. I've interviewed bandits. The first time I interviewed them was in 2019, and then I did it again in Kaduna in January this year. You heard when I was telling one of those bandits, but why you are a thief now? Are you not a thief? And the soldiers who are with me were saying, no, you should have been more polite. You know, you don't call him a thief like that. You call him a gunman. You know, but my own Hausa are more, my own Hausa is more direct. I couldn't find a word that will kind of romanticize him,
A
make him
euphemism,
happy.
yeah.
Yes, make
Mm.
him happy, you know. So this is unfortunate. They said we know them, we know their parents. That's different to knowing their location at a particular time. That is the point that Nigerians don't understand some of these issues. When somebody, you must dissect the spoken word. He said we know them, we know their parents. Of course, that's true. Those bandits come from his state, and they have parents. One even insisted that they must release his father from detention, otherwise he will not release the people that he captured. That was about 2 years ago. And they had to do that. And sometimes it's inevitable to negotiate with them because they are using the people that they have captured as human shield. If they use children as human shield, and you can see them in a location, would you want to bomb them and kill the children in the process? Even Saddam used people as human shield too. So they know that you will find it difficult to kill those people. Netanyahu continue bombing, but you can see that a lot of the abductees, a lot of the people that the Hamas captured, a lot of them died from unremitting bombing by Israeli Air Force. But it's not everyone who would. If today they capture 100 children and the president sends the Air Force to go and bomb the location where they are, from where they are, and they kill those 100 children in the process, the damage that that will do to the government will be incalculable. So that's why they always, they are forced. Once you allow them to take those children away, it becomes difficult to rescue them. You must stop them from getting away from the location. But once they've taken them, they have reached the location where they are going to sit with those people. They become human shield. At that point, military efforts will be difficult in terms of rescuing the people who are abducted, except you are preparing to wipe away everybody. So people must bear this in mind. If your own child was kidnapped, all you want to see is for that child to be brought back home alive. If they pay ransom at that point, you won't feel bad. All you want to see is your child brought home alive. So it can be difficult, it can be tricky to the armed forces sometimes once they've taken these people away. And they usually use bikes to move them around. So they are faster and they understand the forest very well. The military vehicles will find it difficult to move around in those forests. So you can't, to stop them is a problem. Don't allow them to pick those children. That is the best thing. Once they pick those children, you are then forced to negotiate one way or another. This is it, and the more you negotiate with them, the more money they make. So negotiating with them, in my view, is not even. Israel too is not to have negotiated. Israel will negotiate sometimes. Israel is ready to free 4,000 Palestinians just to release 3 Israeli soldiers, or to release the remains of 3 Israeli soldiers. So you can say you don't want to negotiate with people, but when you look at what you will gain, you then think that, okay, it's necessary. But the more we do it, the more we pay them, the more they have money to buy their motorcycles, the more they have money to buy their weapons. So it's a difficult situation that we find ourselves, honestly.
Well, that's a fine place to leave it. That's our show for today's edition of Issues with Jide. Special thanks to you, Baba Jide Kolade Otutoju, for those insightful analyses, as always.
Thank you, Brian. We hope that one day we'll be able to defeat banditry in our country, but it will need extreme measures. It will require extreme measures.
That's right. Well, thanks to our audience for keeping our company on every edition. You can see the program again anytime by subscribing to our YouTube channel, TVC News Nigeria. Click on the subscribe button to get the latest information. You can also follow us on our social media platforms at TVC News NG. I'm also at Ibrahim_Shita. On behalf of the rest of the team, I'm Ibrahim Shita. See you again next edition. Bye for now.